So we've only 1 week left to play in the NFL. We still have so many decisions and clinching scenarios that still haven't happened, and so much is still up for grabs. Like if we look, for example, at the AFC North, we have the Steelers that already clinched the division. But if we look at the Baltimore Ravens, for example, they play the Bengals this week, and they have it pretty simple because of their great performances these past 2 weeks. They just need to win against the Bengals, and they're in.
Yeah, I would say the Ravens probably have the easiest schedule on paper for week 17. But if you've seen how the Bengals have played the last 2 weeks, I mean, this isn't a team that's ready to just roll over and accept, their draft position and their win total. Um, that's normally a sign of good coaching and good culture. It's something we saw with Miami last season when everyone was saying, oh, Miami shouldn't win games, they should get a high draft pick, but they had a very good culture, and look how it's kind of coming back to help them now. Hopefully that's the same thing with Cincinnati. You would still expect the Ravens to win, but yeah, that's potentially a bit of a red flag game with the Bengals looking much better over the past 2 games. And yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if Cincinnati could maybe get a win against Baltimore.
Yeah, the Bengals have definitely looked better these last few weeks, and they're kind of unlucky to not have more wins this season. They've overall played great, but yeah, I think the Ravens are just too strong. We've only like 1 win ahead of them before getting to the playoffs. They're just gonna pull that one out, and I think they're gonna make the playoffs, which probably it could leave the Cleveland Browns after all this hype and good start on the outside looking in after their terrible loss to the Jets, because they obviously need to beat the Steelers and then still hope that the Colts lose. They cannot make it on their own. They need a loss from the Ravens
Yeah.
or the Colts.
Yeah. I think it's obviously very unfortunate what happened to Cleveland last week with them having pretty much no wideouts, no one to catch passes. And yeah, Jets are all kind of similar to the Bengals in a way where they're trending up. They're a team that everyone just assumed they were going to finish 0-16. They've come back with two wins in their last 2 weeks now. Whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, you would definitely probably expect Cleveland to make the playoffs from here. Obviously, they would have to beat Pittsburgh, who don't really have too much to play for now. I mean, obviously they would rather finish as the 2 seed above the Bills. I think they both have the same record now. But yeah, Cleveland should be motivated. They'll feel a bit hard done by what happened to them last week, but yeah, Cleveland will definitely bring it to Pittsburgh. It's at home in Cleveland. But yeah, this is kind of the perfect matchup when the NFL sets schedules at the start of the season, and they put all these divisional games in week 17. This is kind of the perfect matchup for that.
Yeah, I love that about week 17 to have always all these divisional matchups. But yeah, it's gonna be tough for kind of the Colts. If you look at the Ravens and possibly the Browns getting wins, the Colts might be the ones missing out if they don't win the AFC South title. Like because their like wild card route is probably the most difficult ones from all out of all of them.
Yeah, it really goes to show how much one game can change a season. The Colts lost to the Jags in week 1, and if they just won that game, they would have saved themselves so much trouble. Even if they'd beaten the Steelers from this week, where they were up 17 points in the third quarter. Right now, then the Colts would have the 4 seed, and it would be Tennessee from the outside looking in. Obviously, the Colts can still win the division. I don't just want to chalk off this game against the Jags as a win. We know obviously the rivalries within divisions and how much teams would love to stop their divisional rivals getting into the playoffs. So I would expect the Jags to kind of go out there and at least show up. And you would probably expect the same with the Texans as well. You saw with JJ Watt's speech, about how important it is to give effort and always kind of trying for wins and good performances. And yeah, so you would probably expect the Texans to come out with some fire, and also the Jags. But yeah, Colts are in a very strange position. They could either get the 4, 5, 6, 7 or completely miss out. all depending on how their results go and the results of all of the teams around them.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the Colts have to hope that either the Ravens, the Browns, or the Dolphins lose, because I cannot see the Titans lose to the Texans, because the Texans have a very hard time stopping the run. And after that poor game against Green Bay, the Titans will be back and kind of try to rectify that loss to just, and I think they're just gonna easily beat the Texans and win the South. So I think the Colts are in a lot of trouble in the AFC. I think the Colts might miss out on the playoffs.
I think the only good thing for the Colts is obviously they need either Cleveland, Baltimore, Tennessee, or Miami to lose. And you've got Miami have to play the Bills, I think it is, and Cleveland has to play Pittsburgh. So those are two games that could easily, be losses for those teams. And if the situation does arise where the Colts win and all of the other teams around them win, I think it's only happened 2 times before where a team wins 11 games and doesn't make the playoffs. So that would be seriously unlucky for the Colts, but they do only have themselves to blame. They've had some bad losses this year. And yeah, it just goes to show this isn't a league where you can afford to drop any games.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I forgot about Miami, that they have to play the Bills. That's definitely a tough one there in week 17, because the Bills could still reach the 2 seed if they win against the Dolphins and the Steelers lose to the Browns. So they will have something to play for.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure if the Dolphins are gonna go back to like Fitzmagic or if they stick to Tua. But it's kind of a weird way to play around with your rookie QB to pull him twice within like 3 weeks. I mean, it worked out for them, but I'm not sure if that's going to be good for his confidence going forward. But yeah, Miami obviously just needs to win against the Bills, and they're in, which would be a huge accomplishment for Flores in his second year.
Yeah, if you think back to how the Dolphins looked at the start of last season, where they traded away, I think it was Minka Fitzpatrick to the Steelers, and everyone said they were completely pulling it down. They might be the worst team ever. Obviously, they won. I think it was 5 of their last 7 last year, and now they're looking to kind of secure a playoff spot this year. And yeah, I think Dolphins might be the only team in history, and I think Flores put it perfectly, where he compared Fitzpatrick to a relief pitcher. They might actually pull out their starting quarterback to put in almost like a baseball pitcher, right, where they put in someone to close the game. But this is a league where, by any means, you sometimes need to use different tactics to get wins. And if that's what's working for the Dolphins, then yeah, I think they'll probably stick with it.
Yeah, definitely. That's a weird tactic, but so far it worked twice, and Fitzmagic seems to have like at least one good quarter of football left in him in each game. We already talked about the Titans for a bit, but they seem to have a pretty solid route to the playoffs too. They kind of only need to beat the Texans, and then they're AFC South winners and get the 4th seed.
Yeah, I mean, I've fingers crossed that there are a few trap games on here. I could see potentially Baltimore slipping up against Cincinnati, while it might seem unlikely. That just seems like a type of game where Cincinnati might be, definitely trending in the right direction. And maybe the same thing for the Texans after what JJ Watt said. They're going to come out with a point to prove. And yeah, we could potentially see a few slip ups in week 17.